evening, people. It's very good to be back with you on another Brews at 10 here on My Left Eye. I'm your host Lefty. You're all very welcome here this evening. Sorry to have been away for so long. A few technical problems with the Wi-Fi. Regular viewers will be aware, but no, it's really good to be back. How you all brewing tonight? Let me know in the chat. Let's see who's around. We've got Mobius, we've got Chris, CJ, Jacqueline, and Mobius. Welcome back to the membership program. Solidari-Tea. Yes, I'll be giving a shout out to all of the members very shortly, of course. Yeah, Chris away because of a technicality. Do like a tea-based pun here on the Brews at 10. Lots to catch up on, lots to talk about tonight, people. So get yourself a hot, tasty beverage. Or you might be having a Guinness. It is, of course, St. Patrick's today, so if you're celebrating with a Guinness, Solidari Guinness. Yeah, whatever you're on. Cheers. So yeah, I'm very pleased to say I got a really strong connection at the moment. The whole Wi-Fi was down. Had to put the brakes on the channel for a bit. Just about managed to squeeze out one short video through the week. But live streams, I think, were completely out of the question, unfortunately. And Mobius, thanks for the gifted membership as well. Solidari-Tea again, great stuff. So yeah, Labour have gone turbo Tory. Really putting the foot on the pedal at the moment with the austerity. We're taking a look into that. As well as the antics across the pond as well. We might be taking a visit to the batshit crazy corner. Crazy world of Trump and Musk for a bit. That's a good point as well, Chris. We could all do with a stiff drink, given geopolitical affairs at the moment. Ah yes, Morbius. Palestinians. Nice flag work there in the chat. Palestinians. It was great how the Irish adopted that, I think. I think it was a conservative or someone who actually came up with that as an attempt at an insult, I believe. And then it was instantaneously adopted. A good move there from the Irish. Plenty to catch up on. A few light-hearted moments thrown in there, here and there. Hopefully. Yeah, bring as many tea-based puns as you like. Any other puns will do. So I was just looking at the chat there. Jacqueline, you said you were going to be having some time off from live streams. And just 4 days ago. Well, it's, you know, it's worth coming back for definitely here because it's quality streaming. Have the flag icons disappeared? Well, there's definitely a Palestine flag, if that's what you were going for, in the static emojis. Speaking of which, fantastic segue, quality segue, gives me an opportunity to thank all of the members on the channel. We're currently at 70, I'm going to adjust that right now actually, because thank you very much, Morbius, for renewing and gifting double barrel Solidari-Tea there. And here's a list of the latest members on the channel. Of course, I'll be adding the recipients of the gifted membership there too. So they're currently on 70 out of 100. Thanks again for that, Morbius, for helping us get towards the target. Thanks to everybody who's renewed recently as well. Thank you very much for that. And I was going to say others who gifted memberships on recent live streams. I've not been on for a while, just over a week. And when I got cut off live, you might remember that one. You know, just right in the middle of when I was taking the piss out of Pat McFadden, but there you go. I'll be picking up on a couple of the things I missed out on last Sunday as well, so thanks again to everyone there. If you do not add yourself to that list, yeah, it's just 99p. And benefits do include the static emojis, which you can use. Yes, I do enjoy and take a look at the perks. Right, we'll get started in just a moment, people. I've got some good comedy clips this week. Well, I've tried to bring you the best that are out there at the moment. But the first one was very fitting for what we're going to go into talking about. The Austerity. Oh, I think I missed an opportunity to put that in the title of the stream. I might edit that if I do get a moment during a clip or something, but I'll just leave that for now. Okay, just checking everything's in a reasonable order. Okay. Before we do go into the clips and articles and such, let's bring you good people up in the chat there. There you are. Great to see you. I'm just going to adjust the logo. There we go. If you want to join the chats, you do need to be subscribed to the channel, so please do. And then you can jump in to the chat just 60 seconds later. Points about the temperature in the chat we make certainly come on to global warming and climate breakdown as we get through the stream. As you all know, it's a particularly pertinent topic that I'd like to discuss. Before we go a doom scrolling though, let's have something light-hearted from Noreen Skinner. A lot of you regular viewers will be very familiar with Noreen by now, but this one of the latest impressions. Yeah, it's definitely becoming my favourite. She does a really good Rachel Reeves. It's going to be the first topic of tonight as well, so yeah, great segue, quality.
Hello, it's me, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, I think. I've got all the charm of Gordon Brown and nearly half as popular. I'm just back from seeing Sabrina Carpenter, and since then I've been busy working because I've heard that the economy was a bit bad in January. So I've been busy crunching all the numbers. What do you think, Salamander? It looks like he's saying stop. But don't worry, because I'm here to save the day. Look at my workings out. So, as you can see, the blip in the economy in January was nothing to do with us, but it was all Donald Trump. You try sticking to fiscal rules and are well run by Elon Musk and the Cookie Monster's orange grapey cousin. And before any of you start blabbing on, I just want to say that us Labour are nothing like the Tories. Yes, we're cutting benefits like the Tories. Yes, we're having to be soft on the non-doms like the Tories. Yes, we're cutting foreign aid like the Tories. But we always pull a very pained and constipated face when we have to do it. Keir is going to spend the next 4 years looking like a man trying to pass a ride-on lawnmower in an aeroplane toilet. So don't worry, things can only get better, but only after they get a hell of a lot worse. Isn't that right, Salamander? The country is safe with me. Anyway, I need to go now to do some expenses. How do I turn these on? Oh no, I know, I'll send my receipts manually out to the accountant. Just at the post box with my expenses. Wine, handbag, drugs. There, sent to the accountant. Oh no, I've just realised that I'm the accountant. Ha!
Brilliant, brilliant. Noreen Skinner. Great stuff. What's the music? There it is. Okay. Just how she refers to the salamander, or defers to the salamander, or picture. That is probably how Rachel Reeves works out policy or decisions. Brilliant. Yes, sunlight is vitamin D. Can confirm it's vitamin D. Just responding to the chat there if anyone's not got the chat up and you're wondering what I'm talking about. So Rachel Reeves. Yeah, they've been lining up with plans for austerity. I'm going to start with Reeves, obviously, the Chancellor. Again, adamant that it's needed. These are the tough choices, people. Very tough choices. Which I think should be renamed the tough shit choices. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't have the clips at hand. It wasn't very long ago that Starmer was at one of the relaunches, one of the declarations of pledges and promises. I can't remember what the bloody hell it was. He's done so many of them at this point, specifically which one. But I'm certain that the words came out of his mouth that those with the broadest shoulders would carry the heaviest burden. I might be paraphrasing slightly there, but that is definitely what he said. But that's just one of a bounty of examples, a myriad of lies that he's told, promises that he's gone back on, pledges inside and outside of the manifesto. But it's Reeves who's doing the books. Yes, they put a former call centre manager in front of, in charge of, I should say, the 6th biggest economy in the world, and it's not going too well. And by the way, people, you're going to hear a lot of the boardroom talk tonight, you know. The classic buzzword and phrases that they use. I've got a really good something when we get up to Keith's 2 cents on austerity in a short while. He actually seems to be bragging about it, by the way. He's put a tweet out, and it's almost, you know, as Starmer tweets go, it's almost too cliche to believe. I'll get onto that though. So yeah, get a grip on the welfare bill. Are people gonna pull themselves up by the bootstraps and, you know, pull the socks up? I'm sure we're going to be hearing plenty of that. So obviously, one of the things is going to be a shakedown in disability benefits. I'm sure you've all heard about that over the last few days. Liz Kendall really made a very cold-hearted display last week in the media rounds. That was something I was going to get onto in the last live stream, but I'll catch up with that shortly as well. But essentially, yeah, they're going to force people who can't work into work. You know, you can't put a square peg into a round hole. They're trying to, excuse me, label the disabled as benefit tourists or whatnot. Again, in a very cold-hearted fashion. Not a lot of empathy being served up there. And if they don't get back into work, then they're going to be losing the benefits. So the detail of the plans, it says, will be unveiled next week by Liz Kendall, who I just mentioned. The full scale of spending reductions unveiled by the Chancellor the week after in the spring statement. So spring's just around the corner. Rachel Reeves, though, has said, I can't do the voice as well as Noreen Skinner can, I'm not even going to attempt it. She says, we will set out our plans for welfare reform, but it's absolutely clear that the current system is not working for anyone, and it's not working for the taxpayer when the bill for welfare is going up by billions of pounds in the next few years. But they do keep saying welfare instead of benefits, which I think is pretty interesting. The language and syntax is always important to look at in politics, especially during interviews and things like this. So it's almost an Americanization of the language, really, isn't it? Instead of saying benefits. That's just a minor detail. Just something I'd noticed. Because essentially what we are seeing is an attempt to replicate, well, what Musk and Trump think that they're doing with Doge in America. Tories in the UK have been calling for similar processes to happen. And of course, Starmer's trying to keep, you know, kissing Starmer's arse. Starmer's trying to keep kissing Trump's arse. And could potentially be looking to imitate him as well, but yeah, this has been in the pipeline for a long time. I think we've been warning people about Labour being Tories in red rosettes for quite some time now. Of course, the largest chunk of benefits for the entire budget goes towards pensions, of course, and benefit fraud amongst the poor, the disabled, the jobless, for example, is nowhere near the cost of corporate fraud and the top 1%. But according to this article, Starmer has still called the current benefit system unsustainable, indefensible and unfair, and said the government could not shrug its shoulders and look away. Of course, the big word to look out for is always reform, not just the political party in this case, but the word reform when it comes to any government department or institution, especially the NHS, which we'll be looking at later in the stream as well, which is far from safe in West Streeting's hands, if you ask me. Just going to check everything's okay with the chat. It does go a little out of sync now and then, people. Let's see what you're saying about this so far, people. Yep, Keith Doge Starmer. And I did see those, in fact we can take a look at one now. Why not? Actually, I will show that later. I know the sort of posters that you're referring to there, Mobius. They're quite a good move as well, that. More to come on the downfall of Tesla and Musk in the stream. Yeah, we'll be getting onto that. I will just very quickly, MPs on the left of the party have called for wealth taxes rather than welfare cuts, but that's a non-starter with the Chancellor, of course, the genuine left of Labour. Is so very small at the moment you could count the members on one hand. There were others, but they've been suspended, had the whip removed, and will probably be standing as independents at the next general election. There have been a couple though. Richard Bergen was one of them, Diane Abbott another. I've got a clip of Diane Abbott's appearance on Radio 4 that we'll be bringing up in a bit as well. But it's the left-wing group Momentum, yes, who are apparently still a thing. I've not been in Labour for some time myself, but yeah, Momentum, for what it's worth, are still a thing within Starmer's Labour Party. And they've published a lobbying tool to make it easier for people to contact their MPs, urging them to reject the planned reductions. If it's democracy that you're looking for in any part of Starmer's Labour Party at any level, I dare say that you're going to be severely disappointed. That's within government, of course. Councils are a completely separate beast altogether. You've seen quite a lot of rebellion in councils and stuff recently. Yeah. But yeah, this is where we're at. I mean, look at that. The public are to the right of reform on this. People have to work. An unnamed MP, just another MP who didn't want to be named. I'd like to hope that they're not. That is the public. Let's take a look at this excuse me, clip from Liz Kendall that I mentioned, just to remind ourselves of, you know, how robotic and inhumane this current cabinet really are, you know.
Hello, it's me, Rachel Reeves.
Sorry, people. Yeah, so obviously, when you're setting out plans like this that are going to affect disabled people, other policies as well, you generally would do some sort of prediction as to exactly who's going to be affected, how they'll be affected. An impact assessments, essentially, is what I'm getting at. So she was asked if they'd done one before they thought through these policies, more cuts, and this is what she had to say for herself. It's not very impressive.
We've got, I think, a broken welfare system. It's not working for anyone. It's not working for the people who depend on it, and it's not working for taxpayers. The only way that you get the welfare bill on a more sustainable footing is by getting more people into work.
Has your department carried out an impact assessment of how many people will be affected by these cuts?
I'm not talking about that because my objective is to...
Is that a yes or...
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. You see, that's a classic example of I'm just going to rewind it a little bit here. But it's a classic example of how politicians, you know, the Tories did it so much, and now Labour obviously are following on with this. They think that every time a question is put to them, it's their opportunity to go into some sort of, you know, party political broadcast. They're asked a question, they'll swing completely away from it, go into a rehearsed, you know, pre-written out robotic scribe, and that's all that they do. There's, you know, there's no heart or empathy in anything that Liz Kendall's saying or doing with the policies. You know, it's just shocking.
Your department carried out an impact assessment of how many people will be affected by these cuts?
I'm not talking about that because my objective is to...
Is that a yes or a no?
My objective is to get people into work.
Right. There's also this stigma, and again, it's a follow-on from the Tories, that people who are out of work don't want to be in work. That it's through laziness. Again, accusing people of benefit tourism, things like this, but it's just not true. And they're using so many right-wing tropes and using so much right-wing syntax in this now that the veil's completely off. It's taken some people quite a while to wake up and smell the coffee, or the Solidari-Tea, I should say. Even though they were warned by people like myself for quite a while, but even they see Labour for what they are now. And it's creating rifts in the party as well. But there's this ruthlessness, there's this lack of humanity in just having those goals. And again, it's similar to the sort of psyche of, you know, people on the stock market, people on Wall Street. Whatever happens out here in society, in the real world, is irrelevant to them, because line on chart must go up. That's it at the end of the day. And one area and demographic feeds into another, and then it starts to snowball in society. So obviously people who are on disability benefits, a lot of them also struggle with mental health issues on account of things like being housebound, for example. And again, yeah, they do want to work, but they physically can't. They might be housebound, they might be bedridden, they might be under all kinds of awful symptoms. What does latest scandal occur? You know, so then that crisis feeds into a mental health crisis, which we have as well. And Wes Streeting, that's what he's been on about. Get on to him shortly, the little bastard. But no, seriously, he has said that mental health illnesses are being overprescribed. Yeah, so I'll come on to that. But they're obviously linked. There's a symbiosis between those two areas of society, and they're not helping. And the incentives, you know, aren't there as well for a lot of jobs, for a lot of low-paid workers who are still having to claim benefits even though they're in fine health, although they're very overworked, and still have to claim benefits to make ends meet. In fact, let's go to Streeting now. Yeah, we're going to be dunking on Labour quite a lot on the stream tonight. But I've got quite a bit to get off my chest with these motherfuckers, so... Health Secretary Wes Streeting.
One of the areas where you are, we understand, going to try and claw back money who's people who've been signed off because of mental health problems. Now, in the last few days, it's interesting, the prominent neurologist Suzanne O'Sullivan has said there's overdiagnosis of mental health problems. Your colleague Liz Kendall, when she was here, talked about the problems of self-diagnosis when people feel that they might have a condition. Do you believe, as the Health Secretary, that too many people are being treated as sick and incapable of work for essentially struggling with what are quite normal feelings?
Well, I want to follow the evidence, and I agree with that point about overdiagnosis. But here's the other thing. I mean, mental well-being, illness, it's a spec.
How can, you know, he speaks of evidence and then he just simply agrees with something that someone else has said that goes along with his ideas as well.
Right.
Sorry, I just didn't like where I'd paused the video there. But just for a quick moment, What does Wes Streeting know about these matters? Before he got into politics, I think he had like 2 things on his CV. One of them was being head of the NUS, the National Union of Students, and the other was he worked at an electrical goods store, I think. Not sure of the exact one, for example. I'd much prefer it if the health secretary, actually I don't know, had a background in health at some level. Perhaps they're a doctor, perhaps they were a nurse, a pharmacist, just anything. A chemist even, you know. How's this man ended up in charge of the NHS? It beggars belief. It really does. But just before I go back into the clip, if he wants to talk about evidence, if he wants to talk about statistics, you're more likely to take your own life if you're in your 30s as a male. These days in the UK, actually, I think it's overall, than heart attacks or strokes. That's how big the sort of mental health crisis has gotten people. But no, he doesn't want to talk about real evidence.
And
but you do think
I think
there's
too many.
overdiagnosis?
I think there's an overdiagnosis, but also there are too many people being written off. And to your point about,
he's literally just written lots of people off, and that, you know, can't have it both ways. Wesley. Was the thing. Got to do the thing.
But shut up, Wesley.
treatment, there's too many people who just aren't getting the support they need. So if you can get that support to people much earlier, then you can help people to either stay in work or to get back to work. And that's why we're recruiting 8,500 more mental health staff to make sure we can get the waiting list down.
Boom, just pull a number out the air, 8,500, bang. You're just going to open the magic bag and now it's going to pop 8,500 new, was it mental health staff, is that what he said? Very generic term.
Work, and that's why we're recruiting 8,500 more mental health staff to make sure.
Mental health staff, okay. So I'll get the crystal ball out. You know, it's like shooting fish in a barrel at this stage. When you see Labour again copying the Tories where cooking the books is concerned. But what he's going to do is, let's say that a mental health facility has a team of 20 cleaners. Not that I'm being derogatory towards cleaners, obviously they're very essential staff. However, they're not in the category of staff that Wesley here is implying that they'd be, i.e. people who would be involved with treatment and that sort of thing. So when he says 8,500 staff, well, it's just an arbitrary number, of course, that's supposed to sound good when he's in interviews. I'm sure that, you know, even in a few months, or however long it is down the line, we could be referring to this clip again and asking were the 8,500 mental health staff were the same that we waited for the, was it 40 new hospitals that the Tories promised? So pick an arbitrary number, 8,500, you know, they're just going to fall out of the sky or the magic bag, wherever they're going to come from. We're on the way to market one day, and we traded the cow for someone with some magic mental health staff beans. Is that what happened, Wesley? Good point there in the chat as well. They do need a lot of training. This isn't like you're training someone up for, you know, retail or something again. I'm not beating down on retail staff or anything, you know. Everybody's overworked at the moment. But they need a lot. And it's the same with nurses. They'll promise X number of nurses, arbitrary figure of nurses, arbitrary figure of police, arbitrary figure of whatever it is, arbitrary figure of reducing waiting times in hospitals, for example. And then it doesn't take much close inspection to realise they've doctored the numbers, they're cooking the books, they're moving the goalposts, they're talking out their arses. It's bullshit, if you want to put it so succinctly. James, great to see you. Thanks for celebrating your membership. Yeah, thanks for sticking it out with us here on the channel. Great to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well. Solidari-Tea. There's more from Wesley. This is, you know, it's like pulling teeth watching Wes Streeting talking to Laura Kussenberg. Again, if you happen to be watching from the far future, this is the sort of thing that we tried to avoid, and we're sorry that it came to this. We really are. The fight goes on.
We can get the waiting list down, and also starting early, so making sure we've got mental health support in every primary and secondary school in the country, so we can give people that resilience and those coping skills they'll need for life.
But you do believe...
He thinks that mental health problems is somehow, it's like some sort of inoculation, for example, or a vaccine. Oh, James, thanks a lot for also gifting a membership as well. Solidari-Tea for that. In fact, I shall adjust the membership goal now accordingly. Thank you very much again. So that brings us to 71. Great stuff. So where was I? Yeah, so obviously, of course, tackling mental health covers people of all ages. Children can suffer mental health just as much as septuagenarians, octogenarians, however old you are or young. There's not, however, some sort of magic pill or injection that you can give to kids when they're in primary school and then they'll never be depressed throughout their entire lives. It doesn't quite work like that, Wesley. Yes, there should be more support for younger people. Kids who had to grow up through COVID have been particularly affected as well with mental health. I know that for a fact. Some of them even not becoming verbal until a very delayed period in their lives because of COVID, because of a lack of human interaction during lockdowns and things like this. They're just a couple of examples, you know. I won't go on. But essentially what excuse Streeting's trying to give here for messing about with these services, and what he's not really done is think about what he's saying and agreeing with the Ober prescription thing. And that's not how it works either. Kussenberg mentioned, referring to Kendall, saying that there's too much self-diagnosis going on. That's not the way it works. You don't walk into your GP's office and say, "Doctor, I've got this, so I'll have a prescription for this." They'll be the judge of that, you know. If, you know, a doctor asks you how you are, even with any ailment, whether it's like mental illness or not, it's your responsibility to be honest with them. And then they will assess you and hopefully come up with a diagnosis and hopefully treatment or a prescription, whatever it is. It's the same with mental health. You don't just go in there and essentially write out your own prescriptions. That's a nonsense. It's absolute bunkum. So I'm not laughing at the topic, just the fact that I used the word bunkum. Right. We'll plough through. It's not a very long clip. There's not much left.
I believe there's a problem with overdiagnosis. What then would your message then be to medical professionals watching this? Should they take more care to diagnose mental health conditions? What would you say to them?
To an extent, but I also think it's on us to make sure that we're giving people the tools to do the job, and that we've got the right care plans, the right pathways for patients. And that's why some of the great stuff that Liz and I have seen in Maudsley and South London, for example, where they've combined that employment support with mental health support, can be really powerful. And to be honest, it feels a lot less scary and a lot less punitive than sometimes conversations with the DWP feel. And so that is having a real impact. I think
job centres are scary, do you think?
Job centres can be scary. And look, I think there are lots of people out there.
Scary how? Job centres can be scary. Yeah, I'm aware that when you walk into a job centre these days, the first person who'll approach you is probably going to be a security guard. Scary? Scary how? Is he trying to imply that everybody's got something to hide? You know, who's claiming benefits? Andy Carter, thanks a lot for the gifted memberships. Great to see you in the chat as well, brother. Thanks a lot for the support there. That brings us up to 76. I'll just get on that right now. Thanks again, Andy. Solidarity. Hope everyone enjoys the perks there. So where was I with Wesley here? Underqualified Wesley. Yeah, job centres are scary. I'll tell you what's scary, Wesley. Scary is thinking that, I don't know, you're never going to be able to find work. Scary might be that you think you're going to be persecuted for being on benefits while you know, looking for work. So what exactly does he mean by scary? Answers on a postcard for that one, or just put them in the chat or in a comment if you're watching back on a replay. Because I don't have an address for you to do it on a postcard, I don't have a PO box or anything, so I was going to make a fake one up then, but you know, don't want anyone misunderstanding, not getting the joke.
And I meet people in my advice surgery today who, when they talk about their interactions with the state, not just DWP, but the state, it's quite reminiscent of the sorts of conversations my family were having in the 1980s. So I don't think enough has moved on.
What is he saying with that? What is he saying with that?
Quite reminiscent of the sorts of conversations my family were having in the 1980s. So I don't think...
The kind of conversations that his family were having in the 1980s. What's all that about? Oh, right. Is it... oh, I see what he's doing there. And I hope that's not what he's trying to do there, because that's not comparable at all, Wesley. Is he trying to say that because he's a homosexual about, you know, persecution during the 80s, during the AIDS pandemic as well? Is that what he's trying to do? Has he really stooped so low as to trying to relate that to someone going into a job centre? I knew it was low, people. I knew it was really low. But I'll tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there, thems and comrades alike. I didn't know he was that low. That's awful to try and make that sort of comparison. Yeah. I think that really does undermine what actually did happen in the 1980s. And not just in that decade either, you know, historically, if you take a look. But yeah, very bad there, Wesley. Tisk tisk. That's all there is from the clip. So now it is actually time to shut up Wesley.
But shut up, Wesley!
Okay, people, I'll be moving on in just a moment. On to Starmer next, and yeah, this tweet is so full of cliches it's almost fit to burst. And an accompanying video as well. Just one moment, people, I'll be right back with you. People, on to Keith now. This one, man. So I've just got this bookmark lined up. How can I best describe this tweet before I bring it up? It is a tweet. Always Twitter, never X. We know that Keith can often be very predictable in things that he says. That's why we play a certain game along with PMQs on a Wednesday, for example, which regular viewers on the channel will be familiar with. We keep count of a couple of phrases, Keith's catchphrases. That's catchphrases with a K, because it's cool with a K. Yeah. But if you opened up an AI chatbot, for example, if you asked a robot to write out a tweet that looks like it would be from Keir Starmer, this is precisely exactly what it would come up with. I'm not sure if you've seen this one. There's an accompanying video as well, which we're going to go through. And I'm going to have the bell at the ready, because again it's loaded with the boardroom buzzwords and a couple of the catchphrases that we do like to keep up with. So let's see what's happening, people. It's just so atypical and so cliche. You can't... I'm just going to rewind the video. Sorry, I was playing in the background. Checking my settings. Okay, that should do. Check this out, people. The starmiest Starmer that ever starmered. Behold. Our plan for change is delivering for working people. You know, we're wearing the bell out at this point. Our plan for change is delivering for working people. Oh, where's the stuff? What have we got? The plan for change. The plan for change is delivering... Oh, excuse me, bit of a dry throat tonight, people. Apologies. Right, so the bell's at the ready. Should we take a look at the clip? Again, AI chatbot. Do Starmer at one of his shitty announcement relaunch things, and then this is what it would come out with. Hey chatbot, write me a tweet that Starmer would write. Must include the word deliver. It's mandatory. Oh, God, I can't stand the word. I really can't stand the word. Even now, every time I hear it on the news or whatever, it's like literally, it's almost literally a Pavlovian response in itself, you know. Oh, come on, such and such has said that they will deliver 8,500 mental health staff. Right, Keith, what have you got? Apart from a shitload of money from lobbyists and an annoying voice, huh? Ba-bum. Just make sure the volume's up before I press play. It's always a good idea.
The goal of my plan for change. National security.
Give me a chance to get
for
to the
national
button,
renewal.
Keith.
We're already delivering on this, securing the future through our plan for change, on the priorities that matter to you and to working people across the country. So wages are now going up faster than prices. That's hugely important. We're clearing the asylum backlog at a record rate, and NHS waiting lists are coming down. Now, when we started preparing for today, I was going to say waiting lists have been coming down for 4 months. I can tell you today, the stats have just come out, they've been coming down now for 5 months in a row.
Bollocks.
So that's the beginning of the
You've
delivery.
been cooking the books for 5 months in a row, you mean?
The goal of my plan for change. National security
Let's sit again.
for national
just once
renewal.
more.
We're already
Christ.
delivering on this, securing the future through our plan for change, on the priorities that matter to you and to working people across the
Can't
country.
keep up.
So wages are now going up faster than prices. That's hugely important. We're clearing the asylum backlog at a record rate, and NHS waiting lists are coming down.
But, you know, again, so out of touch with ordinary people, ramping up the xenophobia, thinking that migration should be people's #1 concern at the moment, when it's not. It's why aren't you taxing the rich, Keith? It's why are people still working for shitty wages if they're working at all?
Now, when we started preparing for today, I was going to say waiting lists have been coming down for 4 months. I can tell you today.
And then he just repeats his lie. About waiting lists coming down, let's have a look at a couple of the comments. Let's see what you think about that in the chat as well. Let me know. But just on this tweet here, we've got roll your sleeves back down, you Blair cosplaying gimp. Yeah, he does have the, of course, when you're talking to the ordinary person, the tie comes off, the sleeves go up. Another comment, your change of plan is clearly not delivering for anyone, let alone working people. Council taxes up, energy bills are up, water rates are up, rents are up, house prices are up. Stop bloody lying. Good points. higher taxes, fewer jobs, increased energy bills. People aren't happy about this, people. Our plan for change is to, you know. Yes, I know that's not going to actually, before anyone says it, I know it's not actually him tweeting this. He'll have someone in the Labour office doing it on his behalf, of course. But it's very lazy on their part. You know, they've just they've just phoned in that performance for the tweet of the day. Did you do the Keith's tweet today? Yeah, I did it. Was it? What was it? Oh, it's all right. I got it. You know. Probably has some sort of what would look like, you know, bingo ball machine. It's just got plan and change and deliver inside it. Black hole. You know, all the other catchphrases that we keep account of. That was shocking. That was shocking, people. Okay, let's bring the music in. Let's move on. What else have we got here? Right, let's have something a bit more uplifting. Bit more positive from a sitting member of Parliament, one of the few aforementioned not so bad Labour MPs. Hey, that's the wrong logo. And that's the right logo. That's, yeah, Diane Abbott. Was on Radio 4 today, as I mentioned. Got a bit of a segment from her interview. And while Streeting and Reeves and Starmer and Pat McFadden and Liz Kendall, whoever's doing the news rounds on whatever particular day, will have you think that there is no alternative option to austerity, to cuts, to slashing benefits, to slashing welfare, as they're saying it. But there are some very obvious options, of course. And Diane Abbott's aware of these, but it looks as though most of the current Labour neoliberals aren't. And after we've heard from Diane Abbott, we're going to see how some former centrist, as it were, you know, air quotes, former neoliberal right-wingers who come out of politics have carried on and furthered their careers, which is very telling indeed. But Diane Abbott is, of course, of a different ilk. She did stand as a Labour MP, of course, in Hackney, which is her constituency. A lot of people were calling for her to stand as an independent. There was a bit of a public disagreement between herself and Starmer about whether she was going to be selected at the time, you probably recall. But I guess it was mostly to prove a point to Starmer that she wouldn't be cowed, that she wouldn't be cajoled or bullied into stepping down and standing as an independent, probably not wanting to give Starmer the satisfaction there, because then obviously she won't be able to say that she was sacked or deselected if she'd have stood down. That's another point entirely though. Of course, she's still very respected by her constituents and very popular in Hackney as well. There is a Diane Abbott static emoji as well. If you want to throw that up in the chat, please feel free to do so.
We're an older society. We're a poorer society at certain levels. I was at my local food bank and they reminded me that a few years ago you didn't have food banks. Now you have people who are working that go to a food bank. We're older, we're poorer, and yes, we're sicker.
But there's a large number, I mean, the older population is one thing. There's a large increase in the number of young people who are saying they're too sick to work.
My father was a sheet metal worker. He was very proud of his job and he was very proud of the fact that he had all these apprentices. You know, years ago, there was a direct route from school to employment. That doesn't exist. If you're not going to get a degree, what are you to do? And yes, a lot of these young people suffer from severe depression. Yes, many of them could do jobs, but what sort of jobs and what sort of employers? A lot of employers don't want to employ people who suffer from chronic depression and mental illness.
Do you have any time for the argument that actually being on welfare is what traps people in poverty?
I think being on welfare is very depressing, it's very humiliating, it sort of brings you down, but I have no sympathy with the idea that the way to get people out of welfare is to cut the money they have to live on. I have no sympathy with the idea that it's a lifestyle choice.
What about the national economic picture? The fact is we've got a very sharply rising welfare bill. We've went through some of the statistics earlier at a time when money for public finances is tight. So what would you do to get that bill down?
I would introduce a wealth tax. If you brought in a wealth tax of just 2% on people with assets over £10 million, that would raise £24 billion a year. That's what I would do.
Don't you think?
Exactly. 100% bullseye, on the nose. You know, preach and preach again. Because that's the exact truth of it. People with assets of over £10 million, if you tax them just a couple of percent extra nationally, that's going to raise a fantastic amount of money. That knocks you 22 billion black hole out of the ballpark with 2 billion to spare, Keith. But that option's not on the table for Starmer or Rachel Reeves. Well said there, Diane Abbott. Very well said. The money is there. And the there in this case is in private profits, it's in the Cayman Islands, it's in the Virgin Islands, Swiss bank accounts. It's in tax dodging investments such as expensive pieces of art and so on. It's in owning farmland, which has obviously been in the news in the not too distant past as well. You see what I'm getting at, people? Yes, so well said again there, Diane Abbott, Member of Parliament for Hackney North. Got one of the latest polls as well. That's going to come up after this list of examples that I mentioned of former so-called centrists, so-called moderates, Tories in disguise, that's what they are, the neoliberals, and what they're up to now. And there's bound to be a few names that you'll still recognise. You could say it shows how far they've gone from the roots, although some of them were just careerists all along, and obviously wanting to push Labour to the right, as well as advance their own careers. And we all know what they collectively did in 2019. Corbyn is a lot further away from the Tories than the excuse for a government that Starmer's got at present. So let's see what's happening. There were Either Now files. I'm not sure who the original poster for this was, but I've seen it going around the social media a bit recently. Don't know if you've caught a look at this. Well, let's pick out a few there. Yeah, Angela Smith is now a private water director. Chuka Umunna, who was one of the people who went off to, do you remember the independent group? Yeah. Is now in banking, as is Gavin Shuker. Ian Austin is now a Tory peer. Unsurprisingly, there are Israel lobbyists in there. Joan Ryan is one of them. Another Tory peer, John Woodcock, another lobbyist for the pharmaceutical industry, Owen Smith. What a great bunch. I mean, just look at that. And of course, at the bottom, Tony Blair's now a landlord and an advisor to dictators. Jim Murphy, his advisor, was a campaigner against Corbyn. And Lucia Berger, who was another member of the sabotage group, the independent group. God, what a joke that was. Yeah, now MD of a union-bashing PR company. And many of the people I've just mentioned, as well as others, were of course members of the group who fabricated the AS scam against Corbyn and the left and Labour. But where's that left the public feeling politically? Classically, in sociology, when you get to the point where people start to say they're all the same, because they are all the same, in this case, unfortunately, people start to lurch to the right. You see, obviously, traditionally, left-wing parties such as Labour starting to mimic policies from the Tories and reform on issues such as migration, the benefit system, as we've just heard a great deal about, as well as other policies. And then they start to try and outflank each other on the right, and that's what leads us into the fucking scenario that we're in at the moment. But there's a tweet here that I want to take a look at from Stats for Lefties. There's a couple of polls up here. This is an Ipsos one. Took place a few weeks ago. A couple of slight positives to take from this. So you can see that fortunately Reform have more of an unfavourable rating by quite a bit. The people who favour it, 30% to 44%, you can see at the top there, a lot of people are touting Reform to either give Labour a good run for the money at the next election or, heaven forfend, be successful in winning. I think we're heading for a hung parliament personally. Although I said that last time. Yeah, it's a long way off. It's a long way off. That's not my official prediction at this stage. However, it's good to see that the Greens are polling more favourably than Labour at the moment. Look at that margin though, 24% favourable towards Labour, 52% against. Only second to the Tories in the worst result there. But this is an illustration of what I was just talking about there, about how people perceive the parties as being all the same. You know, there's no choice. Look at the turnout. The poor turnout in the last election was very indicative of that. The Loveless landslide, which was a combination of people sitting on their asses and not voting for the Tories rather than rushing out and voting for Labour. Welcome back, Jacqueline. Yeah, that's a good way of summarising it, Octo. We are in the shit. We are in the shit. But we're going to stick together in solidarity, people. You know, the fight goes on. The fight against the right. There's another poll just underneath this one in the tweet. Let's take a quick look at that one. Well, again, positive to see that whilst there's an overall negative favourability, as you can see there, the Greens having the most positive of the negatives, if that makes any sense. And a similar pattern you can see there, the Tories bottom of the pile, Labour not too far behind them. Referendum down, of course they've had some issues lately, he says smirkingly. Yet there have been people kicked out, a few rifts between some senior members of the party. Maybe people are actually starting to wake up and realise that Nigel Farage is a complete and utter snake oil salesman. You know, the stock investor who claims to represent the ordinary person. Just have a quick look through any of the comments. That's just a reordered version of the same one. So what do you think about that, people? Yeah, let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're watching back on the replay. Just want to quickly remind you all, please hit the thumbs up button on the stream. I don't think I even did that earlier on, to be honest. So much to catch up on. I forgot to remind you to hit the thumbs up on the stream, give us a share around your social media. Please do check out some of the previous content on the channel as well. I had a video out about, well, something we'll come on to in a moment briefly. Yeah, the batshit crazy world of Trump and Musk. Yeah, a bizarre pairing of events, this anonymous letter that I mentioned in the last video on the channel that came from Tesla to Trump about the tariffs and stuff, and then the ridiculous sort of car exhibition, if that's what you want to describe it, in front of the White House. Donald Trump trying to basically do an advert for Tesla live in real time. Not going too well. Sales are down, stocks are down. He's trying to give his pal, you know, a bit of a boost, a bit of a leg up. But not going very well. Is it really a good idea to try and sell cars to the public by having someone who can't drive, and even if he could, wouldn't be allowed to, as your sort of typical customer? Yeah, well, I don't think Trump's ever actually passed his driving test, which probably won't surprise a lot of people. It's a little known fact that the President of the United States isn't actually allowed to drive a car, nor are they allowed to drive a car after they become President. They have a Secret Service detail and such that will chauffeur them around. But for security purposes, no, they're not actually allowed to drive a car. So when you're selling cars, maybe pick someone else as your sales model instead of a psychotic, deranged, orange bewigged felon. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, we will take a quick dip into Trump and Musk's batshit crazy corner. Just get things lined up here. Alright, here we go, people. I've actually changed the intro sequence a little bit. Eagle-eyed viewers might notice. Well, spoiler alert, because I just told you. Alright, here we go, people.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. We will build a great wall along the southern border.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
That is one big pile of shit.
Yes, it's another episode of Trump and Musk's batshit crazy corner here on My Left Eye. What have the duo been up to recently since we were last together? So yeah, this massive stock dump from Musk. But the latest on that is apparently even his own chair, the chair of Tesla, has offloaded a crap load of stock in the last 24 hours. We're talking about rats off of a sinking ship, and there is a large amount of speculation that the investors and shareholders themselves they've had enough of his involvement with politics, the way that that's affected the stock price, and they're set to get together, because at the end of the day there's no empathy again where Wall Street's concerned, where investors are concerned. That line's just got to keep going up, and they'll turn on Musk yeah, in a heartbeat. So apparently that's what's going to happen. Shareholders are getting together, they want him to step down, which wouldn't be unprecedented. He's had to step down before, but that was under pressure from other board members. We're talking about investors, we're talking about stockholders, shareholders here, which is what it's all about, really. And if they want him gone, then that really is going to be the end for him. There's a massive sell-off at the moment. I mean, look at some of the stats. 75% are down in Germany. 75% sales are down in Germany. 50% here in the UK. Obviously, Canada has come into this a lot. One of the responses from this back and forth about tariffs between Trump and Canada has started to affect Tesla as well. The list goes on, and overall the stock value is almost halved, and that's obviously not great. So, you know, I'm not getting my small violin out for the blue chip capitalists here or anything, but there you go. There could be something to be cheerful about. This could be the beginning of the end for Musk. And we all know that this bromance isn't going to last either. That's something I touched on in the video that I put out recently as well. It's going to happen very publicly. Of course, this won't be done on the quiet, as if Donald Trump could ever have a disagreement with anyone on the quiet in the background. No, it won't happen. Look at the clash of egos you're talking about here. Someone with the highest seat of power in the developed world, if you want to put it that way, versus on paper, for now, the richest man in the world, although his personal wealth is in free fall at the moment. We will need a very large bucket of popcorn for that. Was that Andy in the comments who mentioned that earlier? Yeah, totally agree with that. I thought I did have the picture somewhere of the aforementioned sign for the bus stop. Yeah, there it is. Sorry people, I will have to readjust the size when I just put this up now. There we go, but that's it. The swastika now with white power steering. Roll up, folks. The swastika now with white power steering. Is that the one you were thinking of? Yeah. Funny. Yeah, please do check out that video if you've not seen it already. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I missed there. Obviously, Trump's now trying to extend his range with the tariffs to us in the UK. US stock overall is doing particularly poor as a result of this and other factors as well. It's not been great. Not had the Trump bump they were going to call it. No, that's not happened. It's been the exact opposite. And the reason for that, I guess, is it's market panic, because you're talking about a guy who says one thing one day, says the opposite the next. And investors, I think, do like to know whether people are coming or going on certain issues. Yeah, just noticed what you're saying there in the chat, people. Please do make sure that you've got the chat set to live chat instead of top chat. You should be able to see all of the messages then when you do that. So that's in the top left of the chat box. It should be. It's got like a little tick with a blue dot on the right hand side of it. Oh, of course. Almost forgot to mention the Russia-Ukraine thing, developments with the proposed ceasefire there. Seems to have hit a bit of a wall at the moment. Putin's putting certain caveats into the deal after he'd apparently agreed to it, although I'm not sure whether to believe the mainstream press about that one, if I'm being particularly honest. So for now, they've not managed to come to terms. But again, here in the UK, we'll look set to mobilise militarily, increase defence spending, that sort of thing. The prospect of UK troops being on the ground in Ukraine looks ever increasing, which is perhaps something to be slightly concerned about, people. Okay, so that's what's been going down. Just a very quick visit there to Trump and Musk's batshit crazy corner.
In spring.
There we go. We'll be back again. I'm sure at some point in the near future. I do have to move on though. A couple of other bits I want to catch up with. But before I do that, I'm going to take a comedy break before I get through the rest of the topics on the show. This is the latest from Broken News. Broken News time. Larry and Paul.
Welcome to Broken News. A celebrity whose star is on the wane has decided to follow in the footsteps of all other celebrities and branch out into low-effort children's books. They've announced that they're starting work on what they've described as a crap rip-off of Roald Dahl. Our reporter has more.
Well, this is a momentous day in the world of children's publishing. The huge news that this celebrity will write a kid's book because they think it's the easiest thing they can do after their TV show that you can't remember got canned. We understand the former comedian, who for some reason has a show on Radio 2 now as well, has come up with a colourful cover for the book, has used a slightly rude word that kids giggle at, and plans to include an incredibly twee moral lesson about inclusivity. It comes as the former Holby City Extra and I'm a Celebrity 2007 fifth runner-up says they're looking for a new challenge after starting a low-effort podcast with a celebrity mate about being a dad or whatever, writing 14 memoirs and publishing a murder mystery for adults that didn't sell very well but has nevertheless been optioned for Amazon Prime because they are, after all, a bit famous. They've also started putting their name on the label for a really vinegary wine that they would never drink themselves and had no hand in making. Well, on becoming the UK's 7,000th new celebrity children's author this week, the 52-year-old said, "The book is obviously written by AI, but I've created a title generator that comes up with an animal, a bodily function, and something that kids love. I've so far come up with the pussy that sicked up jelly babies, the caterpillar that sharted hot chocolate, and the dinosaur that pooped out Christmas. Oh no, that's actually a real one by them out of McFly." Back to you.
Thank you. What a lovely story. And there's just time to remind you that my first children's book, The Frog That Ejaculated Donuts, is available now from all good bookstores. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Larry and Paul, Broken News. Wonderful. I'm not sure I'll be giving any of those books a read, to be honest, or recommending them to anyone with children. Okay, people. Still got a couple of bits to get through. Just want to catch up with one that I didn't get through on the last live stream. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi got cut off, of course. It's an update on a story that I've been following for a while on the channel, and also segues into climate news as well, something I like to keep my left eye on. Specifically protest against government inaction on climate change, as well as the sentences that a lot of protesters, including friends of mine, have been subjected to. So you might have heard about the appeal. Regular viewers on the channel certainly will have. 16 cases were covered in the appeal to try to get some of these ludicrous sentences reduced. 10 of them were upheld. Gay Delap, who you remember mentioned on the channel previously, and the Whole Truth 5, of course, which includes one of the founders of Just Stop All, Roger Hallam, had the sentences reduced by between 2 months to a year. Of course, the highest sentence in that group of 5 was 5 years. This is an official post from Just Stop All as well, I should say, by the way. The judges will be sending those who hid Anne Frank to the cattle trucks whilst hiding behind the quote rule of law. There was a really supportive turnout outside the Royal Courts of Justice as well, and we're going to hear from Amy Pritchard, who sums things up very well indeed, just about the injustice in this, and also why doing this to people who are trying to highlight something so urgent as the climate crisis is completely ignorant, but also very indicative of just how much of a grasp capitalism has on government as well. She mentions some names I'm sure you'll be familiar with in this speech from outside the Royal Courts of Justice as well, including Anna and Phoebe, the infamous soup throwers, both of whom I'm pleased to say have served their time now, and both out of prison. So this is Amy Pritchard.
Phoebe Plummer, who is one of the 16, was going to read this statement. She has had to leave, so I'm going to read this statement on her behalf. I'm Amy Pritchard. I was jailed in March 23 for using the words climate change and fuel poverty in court. I was jailed again last year after the same judge, Judge Reed, threatened the jury with criminal charges if they applied their conscience to the case. But from now, I'm Phoebe Plummer. Today, the Court of Appeal has passed judgment on the sentences of 16 people aged between 22 and 78 who were jailed for a combined 41 years for taking non-violent direct action against the oil industry. I am one of the 16. I was jailed for 2 years for throwing soup at the glass covering Van Gogh's sunflowers. My sentence was upheld. The judge at the Crown Court had said that there was no difference between throwing soup at the glass of a painting than throwing soup at a person. The Court of Appeal here seems to have agreed with him. There should have been 17 of us. 2 years ago, one of the tunnellers group, Zabi, who was 22, took his own life following a period in jail.
Yeah, people, I do quickly want to come in on that point that there should have been 17. And in Xavi's case, Xavi was a bright young 22-year-old man from Spain. Unfortunately, and this brings us back to the earlier issue of the mental health crisis. as well. The fashion in which that happened was extraordinarily tragic. He was part of a tunnelling group, so there was an action in Essex during 2022 in August. Lots of different groups of JSO supporters, including yours truly, were arrested there. I wasn't part of the tunnelling group myself, I have to say, but they were tunnelling for a harrowing 13 days, trying to dig a tunnel essentially between an oil refinery, which is where the main part of the action itself was, and the printing offices of the Daily Mail. I believe he was part of that group as well. So they were down there for 13 days, and it really was tragic and sent shockwaves, you know, throughout JSO when this happened. A very tragic case, and I'm really glad that well, these are Phoebe's words, but you know, very pleased that that case is highlighted as well. Yeah, sorry to interject there, but it really is a sad, tragic case.
And today, the Court of Appeal makes no mention of him. There were some minor reductions to the sentences of the Whole Truth 5. Roger's sentence is down from 5 years to 4 years. Daniel and Lou's from 4 years to 3 years. Cressy and Lucia down to 30 months from 4 years. But let's be clear what that means. These fucking nuts sentences followed hot on the heels of Lord Wolney's report calling for opponents of the oil and arm industries to be treated like organised criminals. This is hardly surprising coming from Wolney, given that he's a paid lobbyist for the oil and arm industries. What is surprising is that the government presented his recommendations as independent and that they were acted upon. Wolney has finally been dumped by the government on Valentine's Day this year. There must now be an investigation into how an oil and arms lobbyist was able to corrupt our country's legal system so far with so little accountability, and how others, such as Policy Exchange, continue to do so. For clarity, this is what the Court of Appeal has decided this morning. The Whole Truth 5, Roger Hallam, down from 5 years to 4 years. Daniel and Lou, from 4 years to 3 years. Cressy and Lucia, from 4 years to 30 months. The Sunflowers case, appeal dismissed. The Gantry 5, Gay Delap, down from 20 months to 18 months. All other people dismissed. And Tunnellers, appeals dismissed. Among the principles established by the court today was their ruling that judges should disregard the UN statements that sentences of this length are not appropriate in a democracy, and they are a violation of Britain's international law obligations under the Aarhus Convention. With this judgment, the Court of Appeal here makes its priorities clear: protecting corporations that profit from destruction at the expense of ordinary people acting to stop climate breakdown. Only yesterday, it was reported again how oil barons are using the threat of billion-dollar lawsuits to stop countries phasing out fossil fuels. The law has been instrumentalized to sponsor mass death. Our democracy is being sold off to the highest bidder. Our courts have been corrupted by the oil and arms industries, and are continuing to jail good people for telling the truth, for resisting genocide in Palestine, and for resisting the continued extraction and burning of oil, gas, and coal. This is justice bent to serve power instead of ordinary people. If Lady Justice Carr thinks that these sentences will act as a deterrent, then she is wrong. Already we are coming together in our thousands to resist the jailing of political prisoners and to resist the corruption of our courts. Now is the time to join us, to act for freedom, our future, and for the liberty of our political prisoners. Courage calls to courage everywhere. Today, many of the 16 remain behind bars, silenced and jailed for exposing the crimes of big oil. So I'd like to end by reading from a short statement 13 of us wrote together. To be locked up in Britain's cruel prison system, witnessing the violence and the harm undertaken by the state against its own citizens is harrowing. But our resistance is not like the addiction to fossil fuels. It's not a habit to be broken. Our resistance is the consequence of a profound commitment to non-violence and the refusal to be complicit in the destruction of our fellow human beings and the poisoning of life on Earth. We can never give up. The state-sponsored assault on our living planet gives us no choice. We will never give up, and we call on you, all of you who know that what is happening is so wrong, to join us in refusing to be bystanders. Thank you.
Amy Pritchard there speaking on behalf of Phoebe Plummer, who had to leave the show of support from outside. What's the music? From the Royal Courts of Justice. Really, really well said. Very powerful words there. Thanks to all of you in the chat there. I can see a lot of support, of course, for those political prisoners in JSO, many of whom friends of mine, which just, you know, adds an extra layer of injustice for me personally. It's great to see these shows of support, especially now that these court cases are being highlighted. And Phoebe's statement there, there was a lot in there, but some really finer points, you know. And I think one of the main ones is, again, as you've been saying in the chat, this is the world that we've time slipped into, as you're saying there, Chris. That's a really good point. And just to repeat Phoebe's statement as well, it's ordinary people, people from all walks of life, who feel that they have no other choice but to take non-violent direct action, simply for highlighting something that's going to affect us all. And on top of that, not being able to use that as part of your defence should you find yourself on trial, not being able to refer to organisations such as the United Nations, as was mentioned there, even as far as to not be able to mention the words climate change or climate breakdown or climate collapse at all. Otherwise, you'll be sentenced for contempt of court. Draconian much? Orwellian much? Let me know what adjectives you describe those circumstances. I just wanted to quickly update you on that. I would love to be able to go on further about that story, as well as climate collapse in general. I'm running a little bit short of time at the moment, people. I do have to move on, but once again, thanks a lot for all of your kind words of support in the chat there, and support for JSO as well. Thanks again. Just a very quick reminder finally, of course, I'm not saying this channel is not any form of official spokes for JSO. Just happens to be hosted by someone who's a supporter and environmental activist, and has taken action with JSO. No regrets, people. Yeah, just to be very clear on that as well. You do have to be careful what you say. Many of the aforementioned defendants and people currently serving sentences are in there for hosting Zoom talks, for example. But as I said, I'd love to go on further, but got to move on. Just where protest is concerned, I want to show you another quick clip before I start to round things off. But again, this shows the state of things in the country. That was from a judicial point of view. This is from the actions of the Met Police during Palestine demonstrations. I'm not sure if you've seen this clip around your social media, but definitely worth checking out. And it does certainly go to show, you know, when people are being asked to leave the area for supporting Palestine, when if they were there for any other protest, yeah, it'd be fine. But there's definitely no discrimination going on. Oh no.
If you don't do that, you are in breach of those conditions and you could be arrested.
What if we support Israel? Are we okay to stay or not?
I think I made it quite clear which side it was about. If you are in support of Palestine,
yeah,
then
yeah,
you are breaching your conditions.
And if we are in support of Israel, we can stay? Congo, Sudan. So what is this about? It's so
what
weird.
Is it about?
I understand if we can't protest at all, but like if we protest for Palestine, Sudan, Congo, we can stay. If we protest for Israel, we can stay.
Yes.
Just to make this clear.
Yes.
And that, people, is what happens when your government is full of pro-Israel lobbyists or people who are under the influence of them. But so many direct lobbyists are creeping their way into power now. It's getting particularly scary. Definitely. So I'm not sure if you saw that clip, but that's a very classic example there. Good people punished while the evil prosper, I should say, if I put my teeth in. Yeah, that's another good point there in the chat. Hedy, nice warm welcome to you. Hope you're very well. At the risk of overrunning, I'm going to forego a couple of clips until tomorrow's stream, if I manage to get on. Yeah, I want to finish on something positive with another comedy clip. Please do stick around, people. Well said, Hedy. Yeah, I agree with that point. So here's one from the Juice Media. I've not featured the Juice Media for a while, but really good stuff. This more about international politics than anything else, but you'll certainly see parallels with what's happening in the UK.
Hello, I'm from the Australian Government.
And I'm from the opposition.
And we're here to warn you that if you vote for minor parties and independents this election, you could end up with
a minority government. And we're here to tell you why that's a very, very bad thing.
For us.
A minority government, from the Latin minimus gubernatio, meaning less bullshit, happens when voters are smart enough to not give any one party complete control of government.
Which means instead of being able to ram through whatever shit legislation we promised Tassal or Santos, we'll need the support of other MPs you elect. Sometimes we'll have to work with minor parties, sometimes with independents, and sometimes with the opposition.
If we're not being total dickheads that day.
In other words, we'll be forced to
share power. And we fucking hate that, which is why we're trying to scare you away from minor parties and independents by telling you
minority governments cause chaos and instability.
Remember that time we went into minority government a few years ago? No, because you probably didn't even notice it.
These states and territories have a minority government right now.
As do all of these countries. And yet they all still exist. Here in New Zealand, we haven't had a single party government for decades, and we still exist, even if everyone forgets we do.
And here in Denmark, we've had minority governments since 1909, yet somehow have world-class healthcare, education, and rank as one of the world's happiest countries.
Fine, so they're pretty stable. But
minority governments can't get anything done.
And yet this one passed more legislation than any other Australian government. And that's cause by having to work with these guys in the lower house, Julia also got their support in the Senate, where bills must pass to become law. So she didn't get so much done in spite of minority government, but because of it.
Whatever, still not as good as a majority coalition government. Of course, when you think of it, the coalition is literally two parties sharing power, which means this was technically a minority government. And this one, and this one, and this one too.
So you're saying minority governments do work?
Only when we do it, honey. Because when these nutters hold us to ransom by demanding $20 billion for dams in exchange for their support, that's stable government.
But when we negotiate with these guys, it's chaos and instability.
Fuck no.
The truth is, minority governments do cause chaos. For us, who have to share power and negotiate.
For lobbyists, who won't be able to influence us as easily since power will be shared across Parliament.
And for journos, who'll have to make more than 2 phone calls to do their job.
For everyone else, it's just democracy working as intended,
where politicians have to earn their fat paychecks by talking to each other. So if you're sick of majority governments passing shit bills for our mates,
and sick of us constantly teaming up to ignore the things you want, like public hearings for the NAC,
a ban on gambling ads,
an inquiry into AUKUS,
a whistleblower protection authority,
truth in political advertising laws,
lifting job seeker above poverty levels,
making these motherfuckers pay their fair share of tax,
ending native forest logging,
and climate action that isn't bullshit,
then you might want to force us into a minority government at this election.
Except this minority government, we're shit no matter what.
Authorised by the Department for the Prevention of Chaos due to too much democracy.
Very good there from the Juice Media. Yeah, do check them out if you're not familiar with them. They've got the YouTube thing going on as well. Juice Media. Oh, have we had a raid? I think we've had a raid. A little late in the stream nonetheless, but thank you very much to Helena at No Justice for the raid. A very warm welcome to everybody who's joining us over there from Helena at No Justice. I do insist, anyone listening here on the My Left Eye stream, if you're not familiar with the channel, go and check it out immediately at No Justice MTG. So a very warm cup of Solidari-Tea for those of you joining us over from No Justice. As I said though, we are just coming towards the end of the stream. Yes, Chris, the Wi-Fi issue is now banished. Thankfully, no issues tonight. Things are on the up. Hopefully getting a couple of pieces of new tech soon as well. To which I owe all of you viewers, supporters and members on the channel a great deal of thanks. Before I go, if you'll just excuse me for removing the chat box a moment. Of course, I can't go without saying another thank you to all of the members on the channel. Thanks for all of your support. Thanks for those of you who bought gifted memberships on tonight's stream as well. Really do appreciate that. Solidari-Tea. Yeah, if you want to join this roster, this list of awesome people in the brew crew, it's just 99p. Multiple perks for you to enjoy. Exclusive and early content, static emojis, that sort of thing. Please do check out the perks. Thanks again for all of your support. So we're up to 76 members out of 100. Thanks again. I can see some familiar names in the chat. Great to see you as well. Vicky Clee, Graham Turner, TJ Sakote, am I pronouncing that correctly? Thanks a lot for joining us. Ruth Guthrie, a Scottish raider, always great to have a few Scots in the chat as well. And Irish, of course, being, well, until 3 minutes ago it was St. Patrick's Day, of course. Solidari Guinness, if you're not drinking tea. Okay, people. Well, seeing as Helen has raided into us here, I'm assuming that means that she's off the evening. I'll have a quick look and see if there's anyone we can redirect into. For those of you who joined us from Lord Justice, sorry it's towards the tail end of the show tonight. Can't stay up too late, unfortunately. But just glad to be back after some recent technical issues. So thanks for joining me. Please do hit the subscribe button if you're not familiar with the channel. This is all about politics and society from a left-wing point of view, of course. And thanks again to Andy Carter for another gifted membership. Great stuff, brother. Thank you very much indeed. Let's get that goal adjusted just before we say our goodbyes. I'll have a quick look if there is still anybody left to raid into or with a scheduled stream. I'll be back with you through the week. Please do join me for more Brews at 10. 10 o'clock, of course, the clue's in the title. And of course, on Wednesdays that includes PMQ's reaction and analysis. Okay, who's around? Let's see who's around. Well, it appears no one's got anything scheduled coming up or is live at the moment, so there won't be a raid this evening. So I guess that just leaves me to thank you once more for joining me tonight on the Brews at 10. I've been your host, Lefty. You've all been very welcome here. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you choose to do. It's been great to catch up with the Brew crew again after so much time away. But yeah, take care everybody. My left, I'll be seeing you soon. Good night. Free Palestine and power to the people.